What is up, everybody? Welcome back to Blerd Out. Of course, new One Piece chapter, One Piece 1177 is out. We're going to talk about it, but also we're going to talk about the live action a little bit. Because I've watched the first 3 episodes, so I haven't watched the whole thing yet. I'll probably by the next time we do a pod have that completely watched. But I want to go over some of my thoughts on the early bits so far, what we've run into. I plan on doing a bigger video on the main channel that covers like all of the live action once I've finished it, so I'll probably do an in-depth discussion there. But I still want to talk about it here. As always, if you have not come to the latest episodes, please know there will be spoilers ahead.
Spoilers.
Okay, so as far as live action goes, like I said, I've gone through 3 episodes so far, and I gotta say, I've been loving it. I think the thing about the One Piece live action and why it's doing so well as compared to some of the other attempts at adaptations for anime is just, one, it's the way One Piece is. Because if you look at some of the other anime that have tried to do adaptations, I think, yes, there's always that era of silliness and goofiness that kind of comes with anime, especially shonen. I think One Piece kind of thrives off that. And so some of the campy stuff, some of the goofy, silly stuff we see in the show, it just works. Like, I don't know, it creates a weird feel, but it doesn't feel like it's not supposed to be there. Like, it feels purposeful. I think another thing that I really like that they're doing is that there are so many Easter eggs for longtime fans that, you know, you can write down a whole book of just all the things that they nod to it, they mention that I don't even know if the show will get to. Like in the first episode, they talk about God Valley. God Valley is something that I don't think was mentioned until the Ultimate chapter, like what, 957? 957 chapters in is when we first got God Valley. And they're getting in episode 1 of the 2nd season. I mean, even in the last season, like with Luffy's Devil Fruit, the box that had Luffy's Devil Fruit in it was labeled with the Marine insignia. And that, we don't really get information on that until much farther in the series. So there's just like little nods that are so cool to see. The outfits that they choose, they choose them from color spreads, they choose them from different kinds of like just illustrations. 2 of the characters that Sanji and Usopp end up talking to are characters from an illustration, like copied pretty much look for look into the show. There's just so much like fine detail that you can tell that there's love and care being put into this. And I mean, we've seen that Oda has been taking a lot of time off of like the manga, off of the anime to focus on the live action because he wants it to be a lovable experience. Like he didn't want to just say, all right, here's the rights to One Piece, make a live action. He like took the time to carefully choose the people, to choose like the location, the setting, the look. He wanted this to be as good as it could be. And that's not without its gripes. Like I still think some of the effects look a little weird. Honestly, it affects Luffy the most. Like Smoker, he looks great. I think the way they do his effect is really cool. I love the way Buggy looks. I think for Luffy, it's a combination of how it looks and just how kind of hammy Inkei is when he acts. And I think that's probably my least favorite thing. Honestly, my least favorite thing I think of the live action is Luffy. And it's not to say that it's necessarily bad or out of place, just bad acting. It's mostly just because I feel like they're doing an extreme version of what Luffy is. Where yes, Luffy is a carefree, he's a goofy character, you know, he's generally a pretty happy guy. I think they're doing that too far to the extreme, and it feels like it pulls you out a little bit. That being said, I think they have such other strong cast members around that it kind of makes up for it. I think, and I said this last season, it's the same thing for this season. Emily and Jeff, so Nami and Buggy, are the best actors in the show, period. And that's what I've seen so far. You know, maybe it gets better along the lines with other actors. I think Emily and Jeff make a perfect spectrum of what the characters in this live action should be. Where you have Nami, who she's level-headed. You know, she's probably the least silly of all the main cast, just because of how the other characters are. And she has like the most emotional depth. She has the most maturity. Like when you watch her act, when you watch her interact with the group, when you watch her interact with different characters, different scenes, different settings, she feels the most realistic. She feels the most grounded as far as like, you know, in this amazing world, you have just a normal person. And then on the other end, you have Buggy, you have Jeff. And he's just hamming it up. You know, every time he's on screen, he's flashy, which is how he's supposed to be, which is how Buggy is supposed to be. And he does it so well. And it captures the essence that, so, you know, you have Nami, who's capturing kind of like the drama, the emotion, the maturity, the reality. You have Jeff, who's capturing the jovialness, the eccentricness, like all the goofiness, the hamminess of One Piece and what it can be. Jeff has that, like the weirdness of Devil Fruits. Jeff covers that. Like it's such a good spectrum of these two characters, and then everyone kind of falls somewhere in between. And I think that's what is helping make this show like enjoyable to watch. And I also want to say that the other characters in the show, like Ippenmatsu, for example, the owner of the shop in Logtown where Zoro gets Yubashiri, his acting was really good. Like the moment where he hands Zoro Yubashiri and he's like, okay, I want you to take this. It's been a while since I've seen like a true swordsman. That moment hit so hard. Like I felt that. It was just well done, like so good. And then there's the moment with Nami and Usopp talking where Usopp is encouraging her to get an atlas. And Nami's like, you should get something for yourself too, or you should do something for yourself. And he's talking about Usopp talking to Kaya. And it's like that, there's an emotional moment there where she's kind of encouraging her friend to go do something. And he's, being Usopp, you know, he's a little bit nervous to do things, but a bit of a coward. So this isn't like his first idea. And Nami's kind of like giving him that push they need. It's just like subtle stuff like that. Subtle interactions like that are really, really good. So, and I've heard that, you know, further down the line, there's a lot of other good scenes like that with the acting. So I'm really excited to continue going on with this. But it's just to say that, you know, Oda handcrafted this experience in the way he saw it happening. So he saw like these characters, he saw these actors, and he was like, I want you to be this person. You have to be this person. I think you and this person will be the perfect match. So he's putting all these pieces together, and they're coming along so well. And it just makes such a good experience. Like I've been enjoying my time watching the live action, and I was initially going to do like a reaction to it, but I feel like I want to just experience it and then talk about it. And that's why on the main channel, I'm going to have a separate video that kind of goes over all the episodes, how I felt about them, finer details on what I liked and didn't like. So be looking out for that. But let's talk about the chapter a little bit. One Piece 1177 Fury. The cover request this time is Robin, so we already love it. All you have to do is put Robin on the cover, and it's 10 out of 10. And I think what's happening is that the moles are digging holes, and she's just dropping like already nestled flowers into the holes. Very cute, very wholesome. We love to see it. Into the chapter. We're back with the kids and the moms. So it looks like they're finally starting to wake up a little bit. Like I think they patched up some of the parents that were really scuffed up, and the other ones are basically getting their kids out of the way. They're trying to get them away from the fight. Because if you remember, they got dropped off in the village where all the Domiversi giants and the non-Domiversi giants were fighting. So they're trying to get them out of the way. The kids, however, especially Colin, kind of see all the warriors fighting, and they're like, oh, I want to watch, I want to see. But obviously the parents are like, nah, this is crazy, we gotta get y'all out of here. I feel like Oda is highlighting Colin for a specific reason. I think he might again take up some arms. He tried to do it against Gunko. We might see him do it one more time just because he feels inspired by the rest of these giants fighting. But he eventually gets carried away as well. You have all the Domiversi giants calling back to Dory and Brogy, telling them to rejoin. And again, this is, so the Domiversi, or however this version of the Domiversi works, it retains some portion of the reversied person's personality, because these giants are like, hey, you guys got to come back to our side. Like, we can regenerate, we're super strong, we feel invincible, like this is great, we want you guys to join us. But at the same time, they're antagonistic and they start attacking the chiefs too. So you have one of them stab Dory, and it ends up shattering right through his shield and straight into his arm. Now he takes it like a champ, and he comments that he's kind of disappointed that the giant warrior pirates are succumbing to this Domiversi. Now, of course, one, they were just Domiversi themselves, but two, it's not like you can just not be Domiversi'd. We haven't seen a way to resist it quite yet. So they square up, they're ready to fight. Dory has like an injured arm. It looks like, honestly, Dory and Brogy both have like injured arms. Both their left arms seem to be not necessarily out of commission for Dory, but for Brogy, it does seem like that left arm is gone. We go over to Chopper's group, and it looks like they're hanging around where Kashi is, and he's being attacked by some of the giants as well. Now, Kashi doesn't have it in him to attack anybody. He doesn't want to hurt anybody. And I'll say that he doesn't really know how to stop the Dome Reversing, so he doesn't have the information that the other giants have, as far as I can recall. So he would just think that if he attacks them, he would hurt them. So he's not trying to do that. And based on what I see here, it looks like Chopper is the one giving Kashi information about how if you get caught in between them, you'll turn too. So Chopper's been observing this all the time, because I think that the three ellipses is coming from Gaban. And Chopper's like, Kashi, you gotta fight him, like, you gotta do something. And it seems like Kashi's not gonna be able to bring himself to do it. Like, he's dealing with too much inner turmoil. And I mean, like, the rest of them kind of got over that pretty fast. I'm not entirely sure why Kashi is having such a hard time with this, but we'll see how that plays out. We actually pan right back over to like Dory and Brogy and everyone else, and they've begun attacking some of the Reversied giant warrior pirates. They're cleaning them in half, punching holes through them, using the Kaku sovereignty, just blitzing them like crazy. Even Zoro lands an attack that like basically separates this dude's head, which is crazy looking. And Jarl comments that they're a bit too happy about getting to do this, like a bit too happy about attacking their friends. Like they're having too much fun with this. And then we immediately hop back to Chopper's group. So like we're ping-ponging back between these two groups. I'm not entirely sure why Oda chose to do it this way. It seems like it would have made more sense to kind of just handle the Dory Brogy side and then go over to Chopper's side and do that. I don't really see, because when you see something like this, you would imagine that there's a story beat we're supposed to connect here. And maybe I'm missing that beat. Maybe there's something here that I haven't quite caught yet. But we go back over to Chopper's group, and Kashi still can't fight. So Gaban picks up his axe, and then Chopper goes ahead and eats a Rumble Ball, and he transforms into Monster Point. Now Chopper hits this giant in the face, and the giant says he doesn't feel a thing, but behind the giant, you can see what looks like a shadow or like some type of demon kind of being pushed out the back of his head. And then right after that, the giant falls to the ground. They do the flip again, and they're undummy reversied. So it's like, what just happened here? And I think this leads more to what we were looking at last chapter, where it seemed like death was a bit too easy of an option. There's probably something a bit more technical, because I doubt that what Chopper did here killed the giant. He just hit him in the head. But even so, it pushed the Domi Reversi out of this giant. So there's an explanation we definitely still need. There's Domi Reversi is just, it's too unexplained right now. We have too many questions about how Domi Reversi works. We have to see it like through and through before we can make an accurate assessment of what it really does. Now we're coming back to the Owl Library, where Killingham and, Nami, all those folks are. And they have Killingham by the head. So they've basically beaten him up, separated his body, and they got him looking like Buggy right now, where they have like his head separated, they got his body separated, and it looks like, so I'm seeing like his body, his legs without his head. Sanji's sitting on something as well, which looks like his helmet. Now, I can't tell if there's something in his helmet or why it's separated like that. I don't know exactly what part Sanji is sitting on, but it seems like he's got his body separated into multiple pieces. And this is their solution to basically being the regeneration, because they can't land a fatal blow. They're just like, we'll keep the body separated so he can't reattach. My thing with this is that I didn't think it was reattaching as much as complete regeneration, because as we saw with Gunko's entire upper half got blown off by Usopp's attack, and she regenerated. It didn't seem like she reformed from like pieces that blown away. It just seemed like she completely regenerated. So I'm wondering what's happening here that's allowing Killingham to stay separated and not being able to regenerate, whereas someone like Gunko had to completely regenerate. Now it could be that the pieces of the body were destroyed instead of separated, and that's what gave her the ability to regenerate. Like maybe if your hand's cut off, you have to stick it back on. If your hand is like blown, like that matter no longer exists, you can regenerate that matter. I don't know. Again, the entire framework of how Emu's powers work are a mystery. We are so in the dark on this that everything that's happening, it's starting to feel a little confusing. And as they discuss how basically they're getting strong enough to contend with the top dogs of the world, like Frankie's like, hey man, like we've gotten pretty strong. Like we can handle things. We're an emperor's crew. Like we can face off against people like this and it really isn't an issue. And Sanji's like, yeah, I feel that, but I'm upset that they're here terrorizing Elbaf and we can't really stop it. We can only do what little we can. They're still doing things on their end. Now, Killingham's talking about underestimate as well you can. That would indicate that we're probably going to see Shamrock, I want to say. Because they're looking at it like this is the level of the Holy Knights. Like this is their peak. So I think Killingham's like, okay, you underestimate us now, but when Shamrock gets here, you know, it's wraps, it's cooked. Now Nami's been feeding Zeus this whole time, giving him more black balls, and she's basically asking him to reign over all the fire, put all the fires out. And as she's saying that, we get a loud explosion from Loki. He just blasted a bunch more demons and he's heading their way. And Luffy's on top of him and he sees like Nami and Sanji and Frankie. He's like waving hi. They head on over. They're like, what is that? What is that giant beast? But they had the same kind of revelation where it's like, okay, if they're with Luffy, then that's one, probably an ally, two, probably Loki. And this gets Nami just in a rage because not only did Luffy make friends with Loki of all people on Elbaf, who's like the cursed child, but Loki is like causing all of these extra fires. I mean, Loki caused the initial fire when he slammed Ragnir into Elbaf itself, and then he's just been like blasting lightning, tearing up things. Like he's causing so much destruction. I'm just like, listen, you're basically doing what they're doing. Like you're causing as much trouble as they are. I need you to chill out. And the face figure from Luffy, because he just got yelled at, is just like he feels so sad, and then he starts yelling at Loki for this. He's like, you got me in trouble. Like you got Nami yelling at me. So Loki blasts Luffy in the face with a lightning blast because Loki doesn't care. Loki's just irritated at this point. And Luffy does like he does the same thing he did with Boa Hancock, where he kind of reels back from the power, but he's like, oh, actually nothing happens. I'm fine. Because it's lightning. And we know lightning doesn't work on Luffy. And we get a cool interaction because Loki asks why that didn't work. And Luffy doesn't say why it doesn't work. He just said, if it would have, I would have sent you flying. So Luffy, even at this point in time, still sees himself as stronger than Loki. Now, this could be some talk from Luffy because we've seen him do this before. We saw it do him with Kaido. Kaido put him down like 4 times. So Luffy does have a tendency to talk a big game. But at this point in time, I'm a bit more willing to go with what he's saying. Now, as they're talking, Luffy senses Haki in the distance. And when we pan over, we see that we're back over to Brook's group. So we have Brook and we have Gunko, who's being taken over by Emu, but we also have Usopp. And Brook's telling Usopp he has to get out of here. Usopp's already beaten up. Whatever happened off screen, like Gunko's been smacking him around. Brook has a sword through his chest. Like they're pretty worse for wear. And this is where we get some cool dialogue from Usopp because he's talking about how he wouldn't abandon a crewmate. Warriors don't run. And we get him talking about how he always wanted to visit this place. This is the land he's come to admire, and he won't disgrace himself here. Of all places, he's not going to do it here. And that he's burning with fury, which is the title of the chapter. Because the Holy Knights are looking down on Elbaf. Emu is looking down on Elbaf. They came here, they had a cowardly plan to steal kids, they wanted to subjugate the giants. But they didn't want the 1v1s. They didn't want to square up. They wanted to do it the most underhanded, coward way possible. So Usopp's like, nah, if you guys really want to do something here, run ones. Step up, fight somebody. And like as he's talking, Gunko goes in, knees him in the face, knocks him back again. In response to that, Brook gets up, tries to attack, and we see that Gunko holds up her hand. And just by doing that, doesn't say anything, doesn't make any motion, Brook is rendered like incapable of moving. It looks almost like he gets hit in the head because his head kind of like reels back, but I can't tell if this is like a hit or like an I'ma freeze you in place type deal. After seeing that, Usopp gets up, And he's got a little more to say. He's like, hey, the warriors of Elbaf, they fight with swords, they fight with shields, they put their lives on the line. If you want to conquer them, you got to do the same. And to that, he launches an attack. Now, Gunko responds with like, a dominant ruler never slows their own hands, which is basically what's happening right now because Imu is taking over Gunko's body. So like, Imu's not even here. Imu is just using their own pawns to kind of get things done here. So Usopp launches Skull Bomb Grass. Imu does that same thing, but it looks like Imu like flash steps in front of Usopp. And she says fire. And I feel like it's a little confusing here because I can't tell if Imu is basically daring Usopp to fire. Like she's telling him like, go ahead, shoot it off right now. Or if she's issuing a command that either makes Usopp fire or something on her end that uses a power. Whatever is happening here, Usopp fires the Skull Bomb Grass. It blows him up. Brook is knocked out. And we see that Gunko has taken damage, but obviously she's regenerating. So like that whole interaction was interesting, right? There seems to be more to what's going on there. But again, we just need a deeper explanation of how this power is working. Now, right after that, we see that Luffy and Loki have pulled up. And of course, again, Loki is just giant. So he's dwarfing the page and Luffy hops down. Luffy is no longer in his giant form. Luffy's in his normal form. Still in Gear 5, but just normal sized. And they're like, okay, so it's her. She's the source of that haki we felt earlier, that massive blow of haki. So they traced it back to her. And now we have Luffy looking at Usopp. And he tells Loki he's mad now. Like it's on now. Loki responds with, I wasn't planning on letting these guys get off the hook anyway. So we're about to have a 2v1. We're about to have Sun God Nika, Nidhogg Loki, and Gunk Emu squaring off. To which Gunk Emu has a really cold one-liner, which is submit or perish. This battle shall divide the world. And that's how the chapter ends. This chapter felt really fast and it felt a little unorganized for me. Like there was a lot of hopping back and forth, but it didn't seem like that was necessary for the story beats we were getting. Like I said, normally when that is used, it's because we're supposed to be seeing two things happen at the same time that paint a picture of solidarity. Like whatever's happening over here and happening over there, those two things should relate. And like I said, maybe I missed it, but I did not see the reason for us to be jumping back and forth so much. As far as like the ending part here, I did enjoy what was going on here. I think Usopp's getting his moment. I would like to see Usopp do something. I think him standing up, him being verbal about it, that's one thing. I want to see him put some action in. Whether it be, him getting a new form of haki, or at least unleashing something with observation haki, or there be him landing a hit that actually does something to Emu and his powers. Like, there's got to be something here that Usopp can do that will elevate past just giving a speech. We need some actual action from Usopp, or at least maybe I just want it, but I think it would be crucial to his speech he just gave, where he's not being a coward, he's not running away, he's standing face to face with someone who might be the strongest in the verse. We want him to do something. All in all, a pretty solid chapter. I wish it was a bit more concise. This one did feel, even though it had some action sequences, it still feels like setup, especially for what we got at the end of the chapter where it's Luffy and Loki versus Gunk Emu. I think that was the big draw of the chapter. And we are not on break, so we should be rolling into next week's chapter with some pretty cool stuff. And that'll do it for this episode. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, and I'll catch you in the next one. Peace.